Okay, so this is the spring break project for you all to kind of take on, looking at the how we might model up a curtain wall system using the spider clip that we talked about on Tuesday. I'll pop back out to reference this. This is an incomplete sort of version. It's missing the small extrusion at each of the corners here where the truss might tie in. I'm going to let you guys finish some of the components without necessarily going through all of them. I think you'll get the gist once we've gone through a few things. A couple of key aspects to sort of maintain throughout the composition here is you have to ensure that every single object you place has reference planes and is locked to reference planes that are either part of the reference for how they go into another object, or that are referenced or locked to objects that already, or to lock to the existing reference planes that'll come in. Hopefully that'll make more sense. So any as we start going in, any generic model that we open up is going to have an X, a Y, and a Z reference plane. Those planes can be locked to other reference planes as you bring them in from object to object. In this version, I'm going to try to minimize how many families we make and do quite a bit of it all in the curtain panel pattern-based family type that we'll do at the end to kind of put everything together. And that way it'll allow you to sort of visualize what you're doing along the way inside of a project file. So the first thing we're going to do a couple of different parts. First thing we're going to do is, and if I turn this to wireframe, is one of these small knobs with the threaded rod through it that is actually the brace for holding the glazing. So to start that, we'll just I'm going to go to View, User Interface. We're going to use generic models every time. So I'm doing a new family type and just going to go to a generic model. We're going to use this for almost everything. It's not a conceptual mass type model. It's actually a generic Revit model, traditional family type. We're going to try to keep all of this in that. So this model is really set up for using the traditional curtain panel system in Revit. All right, so opening up that generic model, here are those reference planes I was describing. So in the reference levels here, we're looking at this in plan. We're going to need to move back and forth between elevations, or between elevation and plan. So as we're modeling things, we're almost always going to be using extrusions or sweeps and actually a blend. You have to be conscientious of the surfaces that you're modeling on and the orientation, right? Everything needs to maintain some kind of a rigorous orientation to the surface of the curtain panel. And again, that's going to be the glazing surface. We're going to use it as we're going to think of the exterior glazing surface as our curtain panel as we go throughout. So here in plan, you can imagine that this line here represents the glazing surface. And every time we make a new family, you're going to need to be conscientious of its relationship to that glazing surface. So with the knob component that we're going to be working on, and I'll pop back out here to my project, you can see here this surface of the knob is going to be on that exterior surface. If I look at it in plan and zoom way in, you can see here this knob is going to be on the exterior surface of the glass, and that surface is what we're modeling on in our generic model that we just started. I'm going to go back to that generic model. Here we are. So first thing we need to do is to make another reference plane that we're going to lock that's going to represent the thickness of the glass that we can use. So I'm gonna create another reference plane. We're gonna do quite a bit of this, and I'm just gonna kind of draw it in here parallel to the face of the glass. And this plane, I'm gonna make a dimension for, and we'll go ahead and create a new parameter for this called glass thickness. And it'll be a type instance. It's going to be the same always And let's go ahead, I'm going to select the plane and then change that dimension to 1/2 inch. Okay, so now that we've got that, we're going to go into elevation because this is an extrusion that we want to draw an elevation. It's 2 circles. So I'm going to go to the front elevation. I'm going to hit zoom to fit. And here you can see the level that we were drawing on, that we made that new glass thickness on. And the you can actually see when I kind of am mousing over here that plane as well as the original reference plane. So we're just going to zoom in here towards the center and create a new blend. So a solid blend is just like an extrusion with 2 profiles, kind of like a loft. You can see here right now we're editing the bottom, and then we'll hit the edit top button. So I'm going to just draw a circle and snap it to the center. Let's make it say 1/2 inch. On the inside, and then we'll hit edit top, and again come out and maybe go 3/4 inch on the other one. You can see the first and second end over here are defined with a certain depth. So I'm going to go ahead and select that and change it to 1/2 inch deep, and then hit the checkbox. And let's take a look at this in plane. So here's the first part of our knob. We're going to want to mirror this along that plane. And now we want to use the align tool, and we're going to use this align tool a lot. And you're going to use that to make sure that objects, that first blend is snapped to the original plane. So we need to, let's see. Let's take this one and change it to 0, and then 1/2 inch minus 1/2 inch the other direction. There we go. And now I'll align this object to that face, and I'll need to change the thickness of this to go from what's that going to be? That's 1/2 inch. So from minus 0.5 inches. Okay, so I've got the other half across here. For whatever reason, these dimensions aren't matching up, but it's easy enough to just use a mirror and then to align. The key thing to get here is that you align that our new reference plane to the face of that, and then hit lock. And again, by locking this dimension, so we've created this dimension, and we can lock it. We've locked the reference between those 2 planes, and now we've locked this object onto that plane. And you can take a look at this in 3D view just to make sure the relationships are okay. The last part of this will be to add in, and I'm going to go back into the floor plan. I'm going to add in the screw, basically the threaded rod that'll move between these 2. So we need to look in the front elevation here, and I'll go to create, extrusion, and draw another circle at the center point. And this one we'll just do, say, with a 1/4 inch radius. And I'll leave the extrusion at 1 foot right now. Just so we can see it in the reference level. So you can see how this is extending out beyond. Again, this will be the exterior of the glazing that we're referencing here, and the interior of the glazing. So we want this to be probably about 2 inches deep. So I'll go ahead and make it 2 inches. That doesn't look quite enough. Let's do 3 inches. This is going to have to go. This screw needs to go all the way through the leg, which will also kind of. Sorry, the dog's upset today. Okay, so the rod, again, we need to snap to some of these faces. So I'm going to hit the align tool, and again use this reference plane. It looks like I need to kind of pull it off a little bit before I do that. So I've got an easy way to make sure I'm snapping to this object and not to the knob. So I'll lock that face onto there. And now when I select it, I can call this extrusion end 3.5 inches. 3.5. There we go. Now, in reality, you know what? Let's go ahead and keep the. Let's go ahead and snap this to the other face, to the existing face, so that it goes through the glass. So I'll hit remove constraints, and I'll use the align to align that face to there, and then again lock it. Make sure you're getting those locks in. And we'll leave that at 3.5. I think it'll look a little bit better. Okay, the last piece of this is to make the reference planes that are in the generic model work inside of other models. You've got to make sure and tell Revit that you actually want to be able to snap to those. And it's going to be relatively key for getting these things to snap to one another, especially in elevation. So I'm going to go into the elevation view, and you can select these original reference planes. And over here, you can see under the Other tab, this is a reference to the center left right of the object, which is fine. But if you scroll up, you can see that there are these other options: not a reference, strong reference, weak reference. A strong reference plane will show up in another file when you go to reference it later on. So we're going to set these two planes to be strong references. And you got to make sure you're selecting the right one. So you can see I'm tabbing here. I don't want the reference plane we made. I want the generic model reference plane. So you can see this one isn't even defined as a reference. We're going to make it a strong reference. And let's also do this in plan just to make sure. So that's a strong reference. That's our glass thickness, which is fine. This one we want to actually set to be a strong reference as well in plan. So the three main axes, X, Y, Z, planes are all going to be set as strong references. I'm going to save this file as knob. For me, I'll call it knob 2. And I'm going to, I can't load it into a project yet. I need to make a new project. So we'll keep this one sort of where it is. And now we're going to go back to our user interface and start making the leg of this piece. So another new generic model. And here's where we get even more kind of complexity, and I'll pop back out so we can look at the finished product a little bit just to make sure y'all are thinking about this. So these legs, let me turn this to shaded. These legs are rotating around the center of the curtain panel right here. So basically we need to, again, think about them as extrusions that we draw in plan. So they are going to get extruded in plan and then rotated in elevation around the center of our generic model. So I'm going to go back out to the new family I just made. And we're looking at it in plan, and this is where we're going to want to draw the extrusion, but then we're going to want to rotate it in elevation. So the first thing we need to do is make the rotation plane that we can use as a reference. So I'm going to hit the front elevation and hit zoom to fit. And I'm going to create a new reference plane up here. And I'm just going to start at the center and pull it out far enough that, that I can see it. I don't want to lock it to anything. I need to name it. If you name the reference plane, so I'm going to call this leg ref. Then you'll be able to actually snap objects to it in other views. So I've called this leg reference. Now we're going to go back into our floor plan, and I'm going to go to create, and I want to set the plane that I'm working on. So I'm going to hit the set button up here and come down here and select leg ref. And even though it's in the exact same plane that I was looking in, now I'm working on that plane, and this object will be tied to that plane. So I'm going to make an extrusion and just do a series of lines here starting from the center. I need to zoom in some. I'm going to come out, say 1 inch, drop down about 1/2 inch. The size of this is sort of irrelevant. You want it to be maybe around 6 or 8 inches. The little leg piece, this is the part that the skewer will go through. And I'll kind of come out and bring it back up. And again, everything has to be finished and closed. In this case, I'm going to go 1/4 inch in the positive direction and minus 1/4 inch for the start. Oops. And then I'll hit the check box. What happened? Didn't do a minus 1/4 inch. There we go. And now if I go back and look at this in elevation, you can see that extrusion. And if I grab the plane here, my leg reference, and hit rotate, again the dot comes in the middle here, so I can select the dot and move it because I want to rotate around the center of the model, and then I can pull it down to 45 degrees. So this is giving me again one of the legs in one direction. And we're going to save basically 4 different versions of this family. So we had talked about doing it with a visibility parameter. I think it's going to be simpler just to save 4 different versions of this and get them all placed in the model appropriately. In order to get the leg actually snapping correctly, once again, we need to go through and select the planes that are in this model, the reference planes, and change them to strong references. So I'm going to select the X plane. This is the Y, change it from center left to strong, and again in plan, I'm going to want to come in and change this to strong reference. So make sure as you click through, all of these are giving you a strong reference. So now I'm going to go in and do a save. I'm going to call this arm 1 and hit save. Come back out into elevation. I'm going to grab this reference plane, hit rotate, and we're just going to go through and make 4 of these. So snap the point back, rotate it 90 degrees into this quadrant, hit save as, family, arm 2, grab the plane, hit rotate, grab the point, snap it to the center, rotate it 90, save as, arm 3, one more time. Okay. So now we've got the base components, and everything else we're going to make inside of the curtain panel pattern base family type. Now that we've got these 2 things referenced, so I'm going to go back to view, and we'll go ahead and jump back out. This is where we're sort of minimizing how many families we really need to make here. And I'm going to go to new and go to curtain panel pattern based family type. Excuse me. Curtain wall panel. I said that wrong. Curtain wall panel. We're again staying inside of the traditional families and not going out into the conceptual mass environment. So curtain wall pattern family type. Okay, now we're looking in the reference plane. We're looking down on the curtain wall here. Basically, from this reference plane to that reference plane is the width, and that's the part that's going to get stretched back and forth between different mullion lines on a curtain panel. And this is again your glass plane that's going to get referenced in the model. You need to pay attention to what's marked as exterior and what's marked as interior. So we're going to be working this direction in the model from exterior with most of the stuff on the interior of the model. And the first thing we want to do is just come in here to create and hit create component. It's going to tell us we don't have anything, so we did component up here. We want to load some, yes, and I'm going to pop back out to the desktop, select the 4 arms that I made and the knob that I made. We're going to bring them all in at once. It's going to give me arm 4 at first. We're going to want one of each arm, so I can kind of go to arm 4 and go to arm 3, which looks like it goes on this side. 2, and I'm just kind of getting them into the model here. Arm 1, and then I'll go to the knob And we need 4 knobs, 1 for each leg here. Okay, so let's look at this in 3D a little bit, just so you can see. That's probably not going to work. Let's look at this in elevation. I'm going to hit zoom to fit. So as we're looking at these, we can kind of infer from the angles that we've got roughly which quadrant each of these different pieces is going to go. So I'm going to move the legs roughly where they need to be and the knobs roughly where they need to be. Let's make sure in 3D that we're looking at this correctly. That looks good. So this is the part, this is the larger face of each of the arms. So I think we've got that kind of coordinated roughly. We've got the right parts in the right quadrant, right? Now it's a matter of really snapping things onto the planes that we want. So first thing is to, in elevation here, is to snap the corners of our legs to the corners of these 2 faces. So we're just going to do a whole bunch of aligning. I'm going to select this reference plane. See now, this is backwards because our strong reference plane is coming through right here, but it's not coming through where I want it. Let's go back and look at those arms because I'm not getting the reference that I need here on the thing. Let me take a look. Okay, so when I was looking at these in 3D and trying to verify that I had each one in the correct quadrant, I did not. That was the problem. So if we come back in here to the exterior view, all our parts are right. The thing is just that the quadrants are wrong for the location of each of these. The way to figure this out is if I select this edge to align to, you can see the ones that will allow me to snap to one of the vertical references, and this is that strong reference line that we gave it, is allowing me to select it. So that one actually belongs on this face, and then when I select the top, you're going to see that it gives me the option to select the top. I want to make sure and hit the lock button each time I do that to get these guys snapped to the appropriate sides. So I'm going to select this guy. So just to give you a sense, I can pull that off, hit remove constraints. Now I'll hit the align button, hit that face, and there you can see it's allowing me to select that, the correct reference line. And I'm going to snap those there. Same goes for these 2, which now belong down in these quadrants. There we go, and that one obviously needs to go over here. So there to there. Lock. Select the face and then lock, and this one. So you're trying to get each of these going to the appropriate quadrant and snap to them. And now in plan we can do the same thing. We're going to snap them to the face of the glass, although that's probably not true. We need to think about the composition of these. So if that's the exterior pane of glazing, we're going to want to offset these slightly from this plane. So we're going to need to make some new reference planes. I'm going to make one here and another one there. We're kind of working from the exterior in. This first one will be the thickness of the glass, so I'm going to pull it off and select the reference plane and then change the dimension to 1/2 inch. And I can select that dimension and make a new parameter, again called glass thickness. And again, it's a type, it's going to be consistent throughout. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that down. And the knob is going to want to actually be snapped to that, so we can go through and use the original reference to snap the knob to, and then we'll move it back and forth. But just to finish out the leg piece, legs are going to want to be on the face of the knob, so we're kind of working out from these in plan. So I'm going to make another dimension, goes from there to there, pull that out, and this should be 1 inch to get to the face of the knob. and I'll take and select that dimension again and lock it. Again, I'm referencing the major reference plane here in the face of the piece. And now our leg here, we'll want to go ahead and snap the face of it to this new reference plane so that it flushes up with the underside of the knob. So I'm going to select that reference plane in the face of this guy and lock it. And I can go through and do that with all of these. So that, and I'd already done that wrong, so lock that one in. We can't see right now the other two legs because the view is occluding those. So I need to select the reference level and come here to the view range under the properties dialog. I'm just going to change these to unlimited and change this offset to 0. Hit apply and OK. Now those two other legs will appear, although the other ones disappeared. Let's change this cut plane to 12 feet. There we go. Go ahead and bring it all the way up so we're not cutting off anything. Again, can use the align tool here. Going to select that face and the face of each of the arms. Snap those into place. And then I'll snap all of the knobs and lock them to this plane and plan. Again, we're sort of working in two different dimensions to get all of the stuff working. So now we've got everything locked in plan. Now we'll need to go back into elevation and lock the knobs in elevation. So we need some way to actually center the knob on the arm here at the spot where it's actually connecting. So to do that, we're going to need to make some more reference planes. And I'm going to draw them by sort of snapping to the two corners here. I'm just going to go around and do it at all 4. So we're making 8 total new reference planes. And we're going to snap the knob to the intersection there of the arm. Oop. Okay, so once we've got these reference planes, we do need to lock them to the other references. So I'm going to do that with a dimension line. Doesn't matter what the dimension is. It's probably going to be something funny. We're just going to lock them all into place. Just ensuring that those knobs don't move around when the curtain panel changes dimension. It's always going to be this distance away from the edge. So you might imagine that this edge and that edge are going to move, and the knob and the arm are always going to stay the same distance away from one another. Where did I lock that one? Yep. Last two. Okay, so now I can select the knob and do an align in plan. So that reference now goes, and those little blue reference lines that I'm getting are those strong reference planes that we turned on. So if you're not getting these lines to show up on this, you need to go back to the knob and make sure that your reference planes are turned to strong in order to get them correct. We'll just go around and snap the knob, make sure I'm hitting the lock. This reference plane, that one. Okay, take a look at this in 3D. The knob. Oh, our arm is facing the wrong way. Okay, so those arms are kind of facing backwards for what we need to do. So I think the solution here is going to be to mirror each of them. So I'm going to select the arm there and mirror it. Let's delete this version and move this one in. This looks like it's going to work a lot better. Again, I'm going to make sure that I'm locking all the reference planes as I go through here. So I'm going to first lock it in plan to that face. And now let's take a look at it in elevation. I don't know which one we're drawing with here. I need to go delete the other one. I'll mirror the other one. Oops. This one. Mirror across that plane. Delete. I'm going to leave it there so I can see which one I'm working with here. Still can't tell. That one's completely locked up. This one is not. This one is not. So let's try aligning. Oop. I'm going to try aligning this to. Oh, it let me grab it before there. That's what I want to get. There we go. It's a generic arm reference. And then that one, and lock those. Let's take a look at this one. Let's see what that looks like. All right, those are much better. Well, that one is. This one I still haven't moved in plane, but this is the correct configuration that you want to get, where the arm is kind of snapped to the face of the outside of the knob. So the last bit of fixing this side is going to be to snap that face to there. Let's take a look at that in 3D. Okay, so those two are fixed. Looks like we need to go back and mirror the other two on the other side. Pop back out. Alright, so we'll do this in plan. I'm going to select that, mirror it across that plane, and then mirror this one. So I can tell these are the ones because there's no locks that appear. When I select this, you can see I've got the locked references. No locks on this one. I know I need to go back in and align them. So I'm going to select the reference plane and then find the reference line there for the arm itself. And again here, reference plane, and then this little line when I hold over it, it says it's a generic model arm reference. So there, and then that thick blue line to get the arm reference piece, and then back in plane we'll need to snap them onto the face, the appropriate face. So this plane to that guy, and lock, and this plane to that guy, and lock. And there we go. This is looking much better. So these four will come together into a joint that we'll need a pipe coming out of, and then to create the truss elements between the two. Let's go ahead though and put a piece of glass into this so that we can start making sure that all of our references are actually working okay. So I'm going to come back into the floor plan view. And we're going to make a piece of glazing in the slot where it's going to be. So I'm just going to create an extrusion. And I'm going to draw our rectangle. Again, we're going to want this to go from the faces of the snapped elements here in the... Oh, this doesn't look good. I think our objects are going to be offset, but let's take a look at it so we can see. So here you can see the original reference planes, and it looks like we actually went the wrong way with the objects. That was probably why my arms weren't snapping correctly. So we'll go back and fix that. It's going to be relatively easy, and it'll be good to sort of continue to see what's going on. So this extrusion, we're just going to leave the thickness where it is and hit OK. We're going to want to snap the glass to these elements. Oh no, it does look like it's okay. To these elements which the equal signs are tied to, which are going to be the actual, if I mouse over it, you can see it's the reference plane for the curtain panel. So again, I'll use the Align tool, select that. Oop, not that face. That was the face of the arm. Sorry. Uh-oh. Goodness. Okay. We're going to align the face here to the face of the glass and lock it. And then here, the face of the extrusion. I think I need to probably pull it off so I can find it easily. So pull it up and hit align and align that face. Oh, buddy. Oh, goodness. Construction is continuing next door. The dog is not happy about it. Anyway, here we are. We got the glass snapped to the two faces of that panel. So we've got it snapped in plan. Now we need to do it in elevation. So here you can see our glass plane. I'm just going to pull it up. So in elevation, we need to snap all four sides of this to the four sides of the reference object. So I'm going to use the Align tool once again. That to that, hit the lock. This reference line to the piece of glass, hit the lock. This one to that one, lock. This one to that one, and lock. Now we should be able to get a sense of this. And this extrusion, I am just going to change the materiality of it over to glass. I'm going to hit add parameter and call it glass. Materials and finishes. And then I can hit the dot, dot, dot. Then I can go into the parameters and choose the material as glass. Okay, so that was up here under the family type properties. Once I've defined that that material, and then I can hit the dot, dot, dot under the actual value and choose glazing for that material. So 3D view, if I change it to shaded, you're going to see that glass is the kind of purple object. And hopefully we've got everything locked into place. So I'm going to hit save and call this spider panel and hit save. And now we need to make a new object, or excuse me, a new project. So I'm going to go to new and choose architecture template. And I'm just going to make a curtain wall. So I'm going to scroll down here to curtain wall and just draw myself a relatively small curtain wall. I'm going to make a 3D view of it so we can see what's going on. And I'll select the curtain wall, hit edit type over here. And we're just going to give it a regular kind of grid. So fixed distance, say at 5 feet in both the U and the V. And then up here under curtain panel, we can come across and hit the drop down. And should be able to find our spider wall, maybe. Oh, we didn't hit load into project, did we? So if I go to insert and load family, I can come down here and grab spider panel. Now if I select this, hit edit type, sorry, should have saved those, fixed distance, and then curtain panel where it says none. Now we should be able to find spider panel. Say okay. Okay, so we've got some issues. We've got some floating, got a lot of floating knobs. but it looks like our joints are actually in the right spots and all hitting in the right condition. So we need to go figure out what's going on with our knobs. So, and this is really all you're going to be doing now is going back and forth between your project and your spider panel to make sure you've got everything locked the way that you want it. So I'm looking at the knob here. It's locked in this dimension. So let's come in here. These guys are locked. We've lost our dimension strings that were locking our reference lines. So let's put those back in and lock those. I think when we flipped our legs, we must have lost them. Hit save, load into project, project 2, overwrite. Let's take a look in 3D. There we go. Now we're talking. So now you've got your knobs associated with each of your panels moving across. You can see here, even on tiny little panels, they start running into each other if you do a fixed distance. Here at the edge, obviously, we've got some detailing we need to look at. So the last bits that I'm going to show you, and I'm going to let you model the kind of flange piece. So that could probably wants to be done as another generic model. Let's go to View and User Interface, and I'll just briefly show you what those look like. We'll do a new generic model. Say open. And this will just be an extrusion again at these two locations. So we'll do an extrusion. You can start off with, say, like a 2-inch. Let's go with like 3.5, and then we'll do a line through here, and then offset that line, say 1 inch. We can do a circle in the center, make it half, and now we'll just do some trimming and extending. So there to there, there to there. Oops. We need to do a split right there. We can delete that. We'll do a split there, there. We can delete that, delete that. So we might start off with that as our kind of flange piece. And the thickness, obviously, you'll want to kind of keep it to maybe 1/4 inch in each direction, so 1/2 inch. And then I would do another one that's, so this is the piece that might hold the tie rods coming in this direction. And then I think we could do another, just a typical circular extrusion that sort of lines up with it. And we'll make that one a little bit thicker, so 1/2 inch minus 1/2 inch. And in 3D view, zoom to fit. So you get something like this. that then you can load in. You can do your own kind of version or take a look at those. You'll load in into the project. Let me just show to then, and you're going to want to make sure again in this to turn on the, make sure that the reference planes are turned to strong references over here so that you can snap to them in the actual curtain panel family. So I'm going to go back into that curtain panel family now. We call it spider panel. So you'll bring that piece in 3D here. You'll bring it in here at the top and probably just on the two sides. So here and here, along with the rod that'll kind of come out of that. I'll show you how to do the rod here real quick. So if we're doing this on one side, I'm going to do create extrusion. And let's make this like a 1/2 inch. Coming out, and hit the checkbox, and it's a foot right now. Probably going to want to make it thicker than that, but we need to look at it in plan. So you can see it here. We're coming into the interior, so again we'll need a new reference plane somewhere out here that can get snapped to, and we'll make a dimension string here, and let's add a parameter. We'll call this truss depth. Say okay. I'm going to select the plane, change this to 24 inches. So that plane is going to be referenced to that 24 inches. Now we need to take this rod and snap it to some objects here. So I think the face of the rod, I can kind of pull on them this way. I'm going to take and snap to the face of our spider clip and snap it. And then snap this one to the reference plane that we just created. There we go. So we've snapped it in plan. Now we need to snap it in elevation to some things. Although I think when we drew it here, it should actually be okay. The way we drew it, it should already be pre-snapped. So I'm going to come up here and do another one, or you could copy paste that one, however you want to do it. 1/2 inch. The checkbox. Take a look at it in plan. Here you can see our new one. Pull it back, and again align that to that and lock it, this to that and lock it, and hit save. Look at it in 3D. That looks good. Load it into the project. So each time you add a piece to this, overwrite the existing version, pop into 3D and take a look at how it looks. So again, we've got a funny spot here on the corner. We changed the dimension, but this is looking correct. So you'll put the little clippy that'll hold the truss component right here at the base and at the top of this rod as it's going. You're going to want to snap it to those two reference planes. And then lastly, I'll just show you quick, if we go back to our spider panel, how to do the little truss work. So we're going to go into one of the elevations here. Let's go into I think it's going to be the right elevation. It depends on which side you drew your rods on, but you're going to want to snap to the rods. I'm going to pull these reference lines are actually already coming out. What we're going to do to make the truss component is to use a sweep. And we're going to sweep along some reference lines. So the reference lines will move back and forth with other reference planes as we make things. We haven't really used these yet, but they're very handy for snapping to objects that may move later on. So I'm going to hit reference line, and you want to be real careful here to snap to. It looks like I'm snapping to the end point of that rod. You're going to want to make sure you're snapping down here in the corner. If you pay attention as you tab through until you're referencing a reference plane. And that way you'll be sure to get it so that it moves at the appropriate spot. And I'll hit tab again until I get reference plane there. And then again here, reference plane. There we go. So I've got the two lines. Let's look at this in 3D just to make sure you're getting them on the right side. If you chose the wrong elevation, it will be on the wrong side. So we need to quickly make a profile. So I'm just going to go to recent files, and we're just going to make a circle profile that we can send along that. So I'm going to come down here to profile. Again, a traditional family type, and we're just going to make a circle with a 1/4 inch diameter. And save as family, just call it circle, and load it into our spider panel. Say okay. So now back in our right elevation, I can select one of these guys. I'm going to hit create, sweep. I want to pick the path. So I'm going to hit pick path, and I'm going to select that reference line, hit the checkbox. Now over here, I've got a profile, and if I hit the drop down, the profile that I've loaded in called circle will be there. And again, I hit a checkbox. So you're going to have two checkboxes to hit. So we'll go through that again. Create, sweep, pick the path. We're going to pick that reference line we drew, hit the checkbox, and then change the profile over to circle, hit the checkbox again, and now we've got both of our rods. Again, I'll hit save. Again, I'll hit load into project and load it into our project 2, overwrite. Let's take a look at this in 3D. We've got our truss work moving through across the panel type. Okay, so the only bits that I didn't do are just adding in the little flange there that'll allow you to snap or give you a flange that the truss work would be snapping to. Yeah, good luck.